Welcome everyone to 5 Minutes with Dr. Raun, the first in our series of mindfulness videos with Dr. Raun Melmed. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you.
Dr. Raun Melmed is actually a developmental and behavioral pediatrician and director of the Melmed Center in Scottsdale, Arizona, and co-founder and medical director of the Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center. He is the author of the ST4 Mindfulness Series for children on ADHD, anxiety, anger, and friendship. Here today, he's going to be talking with us about focus and ADHD. We actually reached out to parents to ask parents, what questions do you have surrounding ADHD, focus, and attention with your children? So we're going to go ahead and start.
Go ahead. Thank you for having me.
One of the first questions that we had from parents is, what is the difference between ADHD and my kid just being a kid?
Wow, that's an excellent question. Well, in order to have the diagnosis of ADHD, there are two things we have to think about. First of all, the child has to have symptoms of hyperactivity, inattention, distractibility. Now, a lot of people might feel, well, I'm distractible, I'm hyperactive, and I'm just fine. What's the big deal about that?
Right.
The kid should just be a kid. The biggest difference is that the children with ADHD, and the adults with ADHD for that matter, have to be suffering. They have to be hurting as a consequence of their symptoms. If they have the symptoms and they're not failing in school, and they're not failing socially, and they're not failing academically, and they're not failing in terms of their behavior at home, they don't have the disorder. They just have the symptoms. And of course, all children are inattentive and hyperactive at times, and that's fine. The difference then is you have to have the symptoms, but you also have to have what we call impairment.
At what age can you actually diagnose ADHD in kids? How early can we find ADHD in kids?
Well, these are excellent questions. So that's a hard one. You know, I think that starting off with at birth, we know that children are born with different temperaments. Some children are very easy. They do things at the right time with great rhythm. They eat regularly. They sleep regularly. They poop regularly. They're kind of easygoing children. Other children, from very early on, you can tell, even from like 5 or 6 hours of age, are much more difficult. Difficult not in a pejorative, negative way, but they're more intense. They're not as regular. They might cry that much more. And some children are kind of in between, what we call slow to warm up temperaments.
Okay.
Now, which is better? We never know. Of course, this world is made up of all differences, and viva la différence. We'd like to have those differences. Now, the children who can be maybe more extreme, more difficult, more challenging, might carry on to have similar symptoms through their preschool years, through their kindergarten years, and even into the first grade. Formally today, the diagnosis is made from the age of 6 and above. However, we do know that there are some children who present with extreme challenges early. And I want to stress once again, it's not just having hyperactivity. It's not just being inattentive or distractible. It's having those symptoms to such a degree that it causes extreme disruption for the child, for the family, for the teachers. It disrupts the social interactions that they have with other children. The children are hurting. In that context, some individuals might say, well, maybe you can diagnose ADHD in children even younger than the age of 6.
Wow, thank you so much. This is such great information for our parents out there. Please tell us more about these books that you have here for us.
Well, I think the most important thing I found over the years is that not including children in their own treatment is kind of nuts.
Of course.
I found out one important thing as a doctor is that parents, and for that matter children, don't actually listen to me. When we're having a treatment process which is going to make sense, everyone has a role. And the most important captain of the ship, the most important element to include is the child. And unfortunately, we often haven't included the child. It's either the parents punishing the child, or maybe medications for the child, or maybe the teachers doing things for the child. But what's the child going to do for themselves?
Exactly.
How the child can actually take ownership. Now, none of these treatments can work completely by themselves. But not including the child primarily, I think, is an error. So I've worked out different techniques which can be helpful for children to learn for how they can be powerful. They can be empowered to take charge. How they can, the mantra of our book, stop, take time to think. The SD4 series. So the children can learn fun tools, all clothed within a funny story, an edgy story, which will keep them on their toes and wanting them to read to the end because they are exciting. But the most important thing is for the children themselves to take charge, for them to be the captain of the ship and the master of their destinies. And hopefully that's what will happen through reading these books and for participating in programs such as Ninja Focus to really make the children successful.
So you guys can find these books here on ADHD, anxiety. There's some on screen time and stress at Barnes & Noble, and then
On Amazon.
Amazon as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You'll see more videos coming in the future. We'll try to post them once a month or so. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Raun, for being here. And that's 5 Minutes with Dr. Raun. Thank you.